Over 4 long, brutal years, World War I's trench warfare on the Western Front ground on. But to the east, a remarkably different war was fought. A war of movement, of dramatic gains and losses, of huge armies on the march, of terrain which required everything from camels to skis. In this war, one great empire, Austria-Hungary, was destroyed. A second, Russia, was captured by revolution, its royal family murdered. The war on the Eastern Front would reshape the map of Europe forever. In August 1914, 2 emperors, full of pomp and circumstance, strutted like peacocks on the stage of Central Europe. The first was Kaiser Wilhelm of Germany, whose own grand ambitions were matched by the ambitions of his nation's ruling classes. The second emperor was Wilhelm's ally, Emperor Franz Joseph of Austria-Hungary, a deeply reactionary autocrat presiding over a court crumbling from intrigue and division. These 2 emperors of the Central Powers were opposed on the Eastern Front by a third emperor, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. The immediate spark which had set these 3 empires, Germany, Austria-Hungary and Russia, on the road to war was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria by alleged Serbian nationalists. When war broke out in August 1914, the Eastern Front campaign moved swiftly. Austrian troops invaded Serbia. Russia, Serbia's ally, invaded both Germany and Austria. The Austrians quickly retreated before the Russians, losing key fortress towns. For the ordinary Austrian soldier, it was demoralizing.
The march seemed endless, and we became too tired for anything except swearing. Some cursed the cow that produced the calf, that bore the hide, that formed the leather of which their pecs were made. Others swore that if they had only known what was in store for them, wild horses would not have pulled them away from home.
While the Russian army smashed the Austrians, it came badly unstuck against the Germans. In late August, at the Battle of Tannenberg, 50,000 Russians were killed or wounded, 100,000 taken prisoner. One British observer noted,
"The sight of thousands of Russians driven into 2 huge lakes and swamps to drown was ghastly, and the shrieks and cries of dying men and horses will not be forgotten." The German victory made the reputation of its 2 architects, Generals Paul von Hindenburg and Erich von Ludendorff, who became idolized as the nation's saviors.
Now, Ludendorff was obviously a very good technician, but the trouble with Ludendorff was that he got affected by megalomania.
The early battles on the Eastern Front persuaded Hindenburg and Ludendorff that the Russian army would be easy meat. Ludendorff began to dream of a great German empire to the east. But British observers had noted the strength of the Russian fighting spirit.
Individually, the Russian soldier is the finest soldier in the world. He puts up with cold and hunger and suffers hardships without a word of complaint.
But in taking on both Germany and Austria, the Tsar was asking much of his soldiers. In late September 1914, the Germans, brimming with confidence that the Russian army would roll over, invaded Poland, which was part of Russia's empire.
it looks very tempting to attack Poland, which after all juts out far into German territory. And if you attack the Russians from the north and the south, then you might catch a lot of them in the bag in the middle. And that is the essential strategy of the Germans in the last few weeks of 1914 in the east.
But the German army had been weakened by the demands of the Western Front, and the Russians now hurried to reinforce the Polish capital, Warsaw. The Germans crossed the Vistula on the 9th of October and closed in on Warsaw. To German surprise, the Russians succeeded in their defense of Warsaw. And as the German army retreated, the Russians, keeping up this bewildering war of movement, attacked again. In response, fresh German troops were sent into Poland to intercept the Russian advance. The result, in November, was the Battle of Łódź. The Russians were the losers at Łódź. 150,000 men were captured. But the Germans also suffered, with 130,000 casualties. German commanders now realized that their Russian counterparts had no scruples in throwing unlimited numbers of men into battle. But how long could it possibly last? By the end of 1914, a staggering 1.8 million Russians had been killed, wounded, or taken prisoner,